when we had a fellow come to our place, a Syrian. He had a suitcase on his back and straps that he could carry it on his back. And he came to our place. He started out of Sharon one day and got as far as our place, and he hadn't gotten anything to eat yet. About 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and he couldn't talk English, so I told him, or my mother was just got the idea that he didn't want to, or that he was hungry and he couldn't express himself. So she fried a bunch of eggs, and he ate a whole loaf of bread and about 6-8 eggs. And from then on, whenever he came to our place the year after, each year, then I'd always remember and leave my mother a spool of thread or a thimble or something like that. So it was, he appreciated the deal, because after he was able to talk English, he said that he was never so hungry in his life as he was when we came to our place, and was hoping that he could make signs enough so that my mother would realize that he was hungry. So that is real interesting. San Francis was baptized November 30th of 1916. That was in ring soccer too. Then in 1917, I moved with my parents to what they called a pup place. There's a set of farm buildings down along the river, just 13 acres. We moved there in April. I was 8 years old. The trees around there were about 4 feet high. There were cottonwoods and box elders and willows. They were about 4 feet, I can remember 4 feet high, and now they're up there, they're 50 feet high or more. And we had good fishing along the river. We were just a few feet away from the river bank. My dad enjoyed fishing, and he had me along down to the river. We got northerns and walleyes and suckers and perch and bullheads. That was our recreation, was to go down to the river and fish on Saturdays and Sundays and evenings. So then in 1918, my dad bought a Model T touring car. We'll go back before my dad bought the 1918 touring car. We'll go back. It used to be a great deal to go to the springs down along the river and fish in the wintertime. And that was all the neighbors would get together, and they'd go to the various open springs. And they'd fish all winter with a hook under the ice. They'd get some real nice fish. But I don't know where there is a spring nowadays that would be open so they could do that. Most of them have been covered up with soil erosion and what have you, so that unless they were dug out again with a great big scoop, I don't know whether they'd ever be opened up again or not. But that is, and especially just before Christmas, there was a time that the water would come up in the river, and it would make it, the water would come up so that the fish would have to go to these springs to get air. And that usually happened right around Christmas, from the 10th of December until about the 30th of December, something like that. And that is a common occurrence every year was to. And then it usually happened just at a bad snowstorm or a bad storm of some kind. It didn't necessarily have to snow, but it would blow, the wind would blow, and and visibility would be down to probably a quarter of a mile or something like that. I've got pictures of this pup place now. A fellow in the net gave me pictures of it. So that picture was taken about 1912 or something like that. These people immigrated to Canada, and we've been up there to visit with what would be the grandchildren of the fellow that built the house. So there's been a lot of history about that place down along the river. I wasn't big enough to cut wood yet then, but we had a lot of fun anyway. So I'm going to go back on the other tape. May from King Bruns Company of Cooperstown. That is a real vehicle, because we'd rode around in a buggy, a single horse buggy. We never used a team on the buggy. All our transportation was, and we didn't run around very much in those days. Probably made 2 trips to town a year. I did. That is probably, well, it had to be after it got nice enough so that we could ride the buggy into town. My dad didn't have, well, we had facilities for winter driving too, but not anything that would be comfortable to go out 15, 16 miles with a team. So we got initiated to a Model T. It's one of the cheaper cars in those days, but it took us where we wanted to go, and darn nice too. And I got a certificate of award for attending school, being neither tardy nor absent on the 3rd on March 18th, 1918. And I can remember attending my grandma Scramsted's funeral on April 6, 1918. Matilda Anderson was my teacher. She was my first teacher of any consequence. So I remember real well, my dad had been to town and he bought me a pair of knee boots, rubber boots, because I had to, there was no transportation. We had to cross the river, and there was no roads in those days, so my dad took me across the river in a boat in the spring. We probably had to hold the boat across the middle of the river on ice, and then go to shore on the other side, and then vice versa on the way home again. I remember my dad buying me a pair of knee boots. They had he told me specifically that I wasn't to fill them with water. Go for any chance that I could fill them with water. So there was a slough hole or a pothole between school and home, and of course I couldn't walk around it. It's too far to walk around it. I was walking around it with other shoes on, overshoes, but I could save so much time by going through this thing. And I was watching it real careful that I wasn't going to run the water into the boots. But I didn't realize that during the course of events that they'd struck up a furrow through the middle of the slough. So when I got out in the middle of the slough, I stepped into this furrow, and that was enough to fill my boots, because I was about 2 inches from filling them the way it was, and then you step into a furrow 4 or 5 inches deep, that filled the boots. So that was my first experience with boots. We dried them out with oats, got them straightened out, so I was able to use them after that quite well. But I looked out so I didn't that I didn't monkey around and walk into potholes where there was chance where there could be a dead furrow or a hole that I could
fill my boots again.
Well, going back to about 1916,